So we're just going to get rolling here, and everyone, just so you know, if you have questions, you can use your panel and ask questions, and we will be taking as many of those as possible at the end. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you. So it's my distinct pleasure this morning to be able to introduce to you .NUC 7.0. Simply Beautiful, Simply Powerful is a theme for this release. And as I walk you through the various features and functionality that we've added in this release, I think that you'll understand why that is the theme. In terms of our releases at .NUC Corp, we typically come up with a variety of different aspects that we want to incorporate into each release. For the .NUC 7 release, it's been no different, and we focused on 4 key areas as part of this release. The first area we focused on is ease of use, and I'll be walking through a variety of the different capabilities that we've added in this particular area, which has made the platform a lot simpler and easier to use, both for business users and for developers. We've also focused on business productivity. This is obviously important when we have very large organizations using our product with many content editors, many administrators. So making the application very simple to administrate and making it highly productive for those folks so that they don't waste extra cycles on simple tasks is very important. We also focused on enterprise connectivity, because we know that there's other systems that are going to exist in people's infrastructure that they're going to want to take advantage of. We've added some enterprise connectivity features in the past, and we've continued to enhance on those, and I'll touch on those briefly. And we also recognize that many folks use .NUC as a web application framework. This is sort of where the product came from in the early stages, and we wanted to improve that web framework relevance by taking advantage of some of the modern capabilities that have become popular with web development in recent years, and really improve the platform to make it more productive for developers and for designers. So with that, let's dig into some of the specific features that we're introducing in .NUC 7. So one of the areas that we focused on very significantly in .NUC 7 is around the web installer. We've simplified it quite significantly, and we've really taken a very different approach to installation than we have in the past. .NUC has always had many configuration options that were available to you so that you could set up the site in a variety of different scenarios. With .NUC 7, we decided that it was optimal for us to take another look at this and a different approach, and basically take the approach where we provide the minimal number of configuration options necessary to get a site up and running, and defer a lot of the more complex configuration options to after you have a successful install. This is a model that's worked well with other systems, and we believe it's a model that is going to work well for us as well. At the same time, by simplifying our install experience, we also didn't want to take away any of the advanced configuration options that are available for the platform, and so we've introduced a new capability so that you can create very customizable, automated, scriptable installations as well, because we know that there are a lot of our larger enterprise customers and hosting providers need those types of capabilities in the platform so that they can automate the deployment of many .NUC websites. And so that capability is still in the platform. In fact, it's been improved quite substantially in .NUC 7. And so what we've been able to do is both simplify the experience for business users, non-technical users, but at the same time deliver advanced power to the power users. Also, we've had a much greater focus over the last couple of years on internationalization and making our product more accessible to other geographies, and so we've included dynamic language pack download and installation as part of our installer as well. Basically what this means is that if you're wanting to use .NUC in another language, and currently we support 5 additional official languages, but there's many language packs that exist outside of that as well for the .NUC platform. But what it will do is it will download the latest version of the language pack for your preferred language during the installation process and walk you through the installation steps to get up and running in your preferred language. This is a really important feature for us to be able to reach out and embrace people around the world with our platform. Another major area of focus in .NUC 7 is around the user interface and around the user experience. So in .NET Nuke 6, we made some significant improvements in this area as well, in terms of modernizing the platform, making it a lot more relevant, making it a lot more interactive. But we've decided that, there's always room for improvement, and we wanted to take it much further. So .NET Nuke 7 represents a further evolution on the goal towards making the product insanely easy to use. So our enhanced user interface is much easier to learn and understand with some of the changes that we've made, and I'm going to be demonstrating a lot of that functionality in a moment. Some of the specific areas that we focused on were around the control panel. The control panel is the primary administrative tool that people use to interact with the website. The control panel has gone through a number of iterations, and the .NET Nuke 7 iteration is perhaps the most advanced yet the most simple implementation that we've ever done. It's got all of the main functionality that you're looking for at your fingertips, all organized in a very intuitive manner, and visually it's far more appealing than any control panel I believe we've ever produced in the past. We have also overhauled the way that we do our action menus, which are the administrative tools that you use to administrate content on your website. We made that a lot more intuitive, and I'll be demonstrating that in a moment as well. Another major change that a change in behavior that we introduced in .NET Nuke 7 is around our edit mode. And this is something that's exposed to the control panel, but it really permeates how you interact with the software. And so the edit mode optimization that's been done is a change from what we've traditionally done in the past. We've traditionally supported a variety of different modes where you could interact with the site in view mode, edit mode, layout mode, and preview mode. But the edit mode is really only designed for those people who are actually doing content management type activities or administration on the site. So it's not your primary use case when you're interacting with the software. And so as a result, we decided that it was best if we made edit mode not a mainline condition, but something that you could enable in those scenarios when you actually were editing content. And in the other scenarios, which is the majority of the time when you're just browsing the site, you would get a much faster, more responsive behavior from the website by not having all of those additional edit elements surfaced through the user interface. And I'll be demonstrating that as well. The default CSS, which is the default styling of the .NET Nuke application, so basically the styling that permeates all aspects of the application through all our different administrative user interfaces, has been overhauled. You can imagine that over time, our default CSS had grown to be quite large and had a lot of different styles that needed to be overwritten if you wanted to achieve certain types of specific styling on your website. So we decided that with .NET Nuke 7 was the time for us to completely overhaul the default CSS, streamline it, optimize it, simplify it, and modernize it as well. And so this will produce a variety of different benefits, both for designers, for content administrators, and for developers. A feature that we'd had in the platform in the past, at least in a limited form, was drag and drop. And this is a feature that is mostly appreciated by non-technical users in terms of a capability they can use to administrate their website very simply and easily. This feature was not included in the .NET Nuke 6 releases, and we've brought it back. But we haven't just brought it back in the way that it existed before in the platform. We've actually brought it back in a much more substantial manner. We've integrated it into our control panel so that you can easily find modules and drag them onto your page surface, and I'll be demonstrating that in a moment because talking about it really doesn't do it justice, but it's safe to say that the drag and drop capabilities in .NET Nuke 7 are far superior to anything that we've done in the past, and I believe all users are going to find it very useful and very productive to manage their website using some of these new capabilities. We've introduced a new default skin and template, again to help modernize the platform and also further our story about the fact that you can use .NET Nuke to build very rich, compelling websites. And building on what we introduced in .NET Nuke 6, we've taken our standard UI patterns further. In .NET Nuke 6, we introduced a lot of new standards around form patterns, So trying to create some kind of consistent user interface paradigms that module developers could utilize so that when customers are trying to utilize different third-party modules, at least the experience that they get is going to be consistent across many modules. We introduced some of those patterns in .NET Nuke 6, and we've introduced more patterns in .NET Nuke 7, which developers can take advantage of, which really help build a more cohesive story around the overall platform. Another area that we focused on in .NET Nuke 7 is around business productivity. Obviously, this is highly important in terms of making business users feel most productive in their day-to-day work when they're working with our product. One of the major features that has been on the roadmap for quite some time has been a highly desirable feature. It's been identified by community members as one of the main things that they would like to see in the platform. Really builds on top of functionality that's been in the platform for a long time. We've always had the capability of managing multiple websites from a single installation. This is what we refer to as our multi-portal or multi-tenant capability. And so you can build multiple websites, and you can associate those websites with some of the features that we introduced in prior versions, which is a feature we refer to as site groups. So site groups allow you to associate sites together so that users can have single sign-on capabilities across them. But we've taken that concept and taken it further with cross-site module sharing, which is a feature which allows you to utilize and leverage the content that you've created on one site by publishing and exposing it on another site. So this is a really big productivity boost, because in the past what you would have to do is a lot of cut and paste type of work in order to replicate content across your various sites. Now you can basically share a module with its content or functionality on different sites that are part of your installation, and you can edit it in one place, and those content changes will be published out to the various locations where that content or functionality is exposed. So this is a really productive feature, and like I said, it's built on top of the existing functionality that was added in previous releases around site groups. So it really creates a very cohesive and integrated story. This feature has value in a variety of different scenarios. For example, we know that a lot of customers today have a desktop site, and they know that a lot of mobile devices are visiting their website, and perhaps they want to create an optimized mobile experience. So they might want to create a mobile website that is more optimized for those devices. And so what they can do today, or at least what they'll be able to do with .NET Nuke 7, is they'll be able to create content on their desktop site and then share that content on the mobile site. So it saves a lot of the repetitive work in terms of replicating content across the various sites. And this is also not just valuable in mobile website scenarios, but it's also very helpful in multi-site scenarios. These are scenarios like departmental websites where you have a company has various departments that are part of it. For example, maybe a finance, HR, product development, various departments. And each department might have their own distinct site that's part of the installation. Employees will log into the site, and they'll want to be able to navigate across the various sites, but just the employees in each specific department might have edit rights to the content in their specific site. Well, the nice thing now that is possible with cross-site module sharing is that the content that's created in one function can then be replicated in a different function, but that original function still maintains control over their content. So they don't have to worry about somebody in another function making changes to their content that perhaps makes it invalid or incorrect. They can still have full control over that content, but then it's published into the different sites that are part of the installation. And this is also a valuable feature in microsites as well. So if you have a variety of different brands that you're trying to manage, each brand might have its own site. And again, you might have some information that's part of the master company set of assets that you might want to share across the different sites. So cross-site module sharing is a very substantial feature that's available in the Professional Edition product, built on a lot of the professional functionality that we've already introduced around site groups. Another area that we focused on is the HTML Pro module. The HTML Pro module is sort of the ubiquitous module that most website owners rely on for managing content. A lot of content on websites is arbitrary in nature, and this content is comprised both of, traditional text, can include graphics, images, videos. It can include a lot of functionality as part of that content, but in a very sort of unstructured manner. The HTML Pro module is the perfect module for managing that type of content, and what we've done is we've enhanced the capabilities of this module further. We continue to make investments in the HTML Pro module because we know that this is where the majority of content editors will spend the majority of their time in terms of managing the content on their websites. And so some of the features that we've added in this area are really around business productivity. So autosave is the ability for the system to save draft versions of your content as you're creating it. So basically, every so many seconds, it'll take a snapshot of the content as it exists. This means that you'll never get into a situation where you'll lose content because maybe your session timed out or you had a browser issue or something of that nature. Your system is going to protect you from those types of unforeseen situations that might arise, and it will save your content so that it's there and available when you come back to the site and you want to publish. Another feature that is going to be a huge productivity booster for organizations which have a lot of content editors is version compare. So the HTML Pro module, the module that's part of the Professional Edition, has always had the ability to manage multiple versions of content and also set up very sophisticated workflows so that content creators can create content. It can then be published and move into an approval workflow and move through various states in that workflow and have different people within the organization review that content to ensure it meets the criteria that and the business objectives that are trying to be achieved before it's ultimately published on the final website. In the past, we provided capability around this, but it wasn't exactly intuitive to see the changes between the different versions of content. The version compare capability allows you to see those comparisons side by side, and it allows you to compare different versions of content. You can see what content has been added, what's been removed, and what's been modified in a very intuitive side-by-side manner, which I will demonstrate to you today. Another capability that was a highly requested feature based on the HTML Pro capabilities that we had in the past was that once you had submitted content for approval, the approvers were not able to make any modifications to the content. Basically the only option they had was to either approve it or reject it and send it back to the original content creator. Sometimes there's situations which arise which perhaps the approver has some additional knowledge. Perhaps they want to fix a spelling mistake. Perhaps they want to add a little bit more verbiage to improve it before it gets published. And they don't want to send it all the way back to the original content creator for this to reinitiate the whole workflow. And so the edit and publish capability allows content reviewers to make additional modifications to the content before it gets reviewed. Again, this just saves cycles. Rather than having to restart the workflow and waste a lot of time, these types of productivity improvements can save a ton of time and make organizations a lot more efficient. As part of the HTML Pro module, we also have a My Work area, which is really a dashboard which helps a content creator or administrator, or reviewer, understand all of the different content items that they're responsible for in the website. Websites can be very large and expansive. They can have thousands of pages and thousands of modules and thousands of content items to manage, and it can become quite a large exercise just to keep up with all of the different content changes that are going on. So the My Work dashboard tries to simplify that, provides a personalized view for the user that's logged in to explain all of the different activities that they're responsible for. So if there's content in various stages of workflows that need to be approved, it will allow them to very quickly and easily identify those and go and complete their work. Again, this is all about business productivity and helping people utilize our product more effectively. In terms of business productivity, we've also made the product a lot more designer friendly because it's although content is king when it comes to content management systems like .NET Nuke, so is presentation. So making sure that designers can create very stunning and compelling designs really unleash their creativity through the website is highly important. Some of the characteristics of our default CSS were really starting to hold developers back in that regard, and so the overhaul of the default CSS in .NET Nuke 7 really provides a lot more control and a lot more flexibility over styling for web designers and web agencies that are producing very rich and compelling websites for customers. In addition, the CSS optimizations that we've done have the potential to improve website performance because the CSS that we're providing by default now is a lot more optimized. You're basically not required to carry a lot of the sort of, I guess, baggage you could call it from previous versions of the .NET Nuke CSS styles, and so you can focus on the new styles, and that provides a much more performant website. In addition, the default CSS provides a more reliable and standard foundation for custom development. So for module developers or for developers who are doing custom development within their organization, they need a very solid foundation for CSS for building those extensions to the platform. And so the changes that we've made to the default CSS have benefits for many, many stakeholders when it comes to business productivity. Enterprise connectivity is another main focus for us, and we introduced a variety of different connectors in the past. We focused a lot on SharePoint. SharePoint is a very widely deployed document management solution from Microsoft. Many organizations are taking advantage of the SharePoint document management capabilities. But in addition to document management, SharePoint also has another main feature which a lot of organizations use. These are the SharePoint lists. These are arbitrary sets of information that you can manage through SharePoint. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to allow .NET Nuke users to be able to take advantage of that rich information that is in the SharePoint repository in a variety of ways. And so we've introduced SharePoint list integration in .NET Nuke 7, and we've done it in a couple of different ways. So one of the ways it's been introduced is as a live connection. Basically what this means is you set up a connection to your SharePoint site, and in real time you can consume the information from the SharePoint site in your .NET Nuke site, expose it to users through our secure user interface, our secure content management system, and you can also push information in real time back to SharePoint. We also have a synchronized connection model as well for those organizations that have a more sophisticated infrastructure. Often customers don't want to open a hole in their firewall to allow public access to their SharePoint repository. And so what we've done around SharePoint list integration with the synchronized connection model is that you can install a scheduled job on the SharePoint site which will push information periodically to your .NET Nuke site. So this allows you to have that very secure model that some organizations, some IT organizations require, but still get the integration benefits of utilizing SharePoint list integration as part of your .NET Nuke solution. As part of this solution, we've also introduced a very simple form and list module. So this is a module that you could build a very simple data entry form. Your users can enter information, and then it can push that information back into SharePoint repository as a way of storing that information and then utilizing it either through your .NET Nuke system or through SharePoint directly. We've also added Active Directory support. So many of our customers are standardized on Microsoft technology. Many of them use Active Directory to keep track of all of their different users, to provide them with single sign-on capabilities across their different applications. And so having a supported authentication provider based on Active Directory as part of our Professional Edition product was something that we felt was very important, because we know that a lot of customers are using our product in intranet environments where Active Directory is present and is the preferred way of doing authentication. And so we wanted to introduce an Active Directory provider which is fully supported by .NET Nuke Corp in the box, so that customers could take advantage of that and have the assurance that that is a fully supported part of their infrastructure. Moving on to web framework, I touched on this earlier. .NET Nuke is often used as a web application framework for building advanced web applications. And we wanted to introduce some new capabilities in this area as well. So targeting web developers specifically, we wanted to improve the productivity for those folks in terms of building extensions for the platform. So one of the areas which has needed some work for quite some time is the .NET Nuke data access layer. It is what we have in .NET Nuke today is a very robust data access layer. It's tried, it's proven, it's been around for many years, but there are some new techniques that are available for doing data access in a much more simplified manner. It really abstracts web developers from some of the internals of how databases work. And so what we've done is we've introduced a new data access layer, which we've called the DAL2. It, under the covers, is based on a micro ORM capability. So the ability to build rich business objects and then have those business objects sort of automatically understand how to interact with the database behind the scenes. This is a big productivity improvement for web developers when they don't have to actually write database queries and code at that level. And we think that there's going to be a lot of benefit by having a new data access layer, or at least a simplified data access layer in the platform, which developers can take advantage of. Obviously, .NET Nuke does not restrict developers in any way from using any type of data access technique that they desire, but out of the box we're going to have a micro ORM based data access layer that developers can take advantage of with full assurance that it's in the box, fully supported, and sort of gets around a lot of the installation issues that might arise by installing various other third-party data access type controls. We had introduced integration for ASP.NET Razor in the past. However, because we were basing our platform on an earlier version of ASP.NET, ASP.NET 3.5, it meant that we couldn't have the full deep integration for ASP.NET Razor that we desired. With .NET Nuke 7, we've actually increased our baseline to ASP.NET 4, which means that ASP.NET Razor can now be a first-class citizen as part of the platform. A lot of web developers find the Razor syntax to be very simple and fluid and a lot easier to write code in, and so we wanted to make sure that developers who have those preferences can utilize Razor in a much more integrated manner than they could in the past. And so Razor, now first-class citizen, .NET Nuke 7. We've also always had the capability in the platform more aimed at entry-level developers to create dynamic modules. So modules that have a more dynamic feel to them. They don't require pre-compilation in order to create them. This is often used internally by organizations, so organizations that are building modules and that they don't expect to distribute to third parties, basically modules that aren't going to be productized. So if you're building modules internally, you're often looking for very fast, productive techniques for building modules to get functionality on your website as soon as possible. So this is another scenario where dynamic module development makes a lot of sense. Also for prototyping, it's a highly productive capability. And so we've made some improvements around dynamic module development capabilities in .NET Nuke 7. And we'll be talking more about those, I think, in detail once .NET Nuke 7 is released, and we can dive into some of the more details around that. And obviously we also wanted to embrace modern web development. Microsoft has come out with a whole new wave of products recently, and so we wanted to be able to take advantage of that. One of those products is ASP.NET Web API. So this is a new capability that Microsoft has introduced. It replaces the previous ASP.NET MVC implementation for building web services, and will be the preferred way of building web services on the Microsoft platform going forward. This feature has just been released by Microsoft, but because they made it compatible with ASP.NET 4, it means that .NET Nuke can take advantage of it immediately. So in fact, in this respect, we are on the cutting edge of Microsoft development by allowing developers to create web services using ASP.NET Web API, and we've done so in a very secure manner, so that we help developers build very secure web services which provide the protection they need in their installation, but also allow the rich client-side capabilities that they desire to build very interactive applications. And we further embrace jQuery knockout in our own development efforts. They're being shipped in the box. Third-party developers can take advantage of these techniques as well for building rich client-side capabilities in the platform. And as I mentioned, Microsoft has come out with a lot of new products recently: Windows 8, Windows Server 2012, new version of IIS, ASP.NET 4.5, Visual Studio 2012, and SQL Server 2012. All of these new products are products that our customers want to take advantage of in terms of running .NET Nuke on top of them. And so we've made sure that .NET Nuke is fully compatible with this new wave of product offerings from Microsoft. At the same time, we wanted to move our own baseline, and we can't base our product on the latest cutting edge products from Microsoft because we know that our customers aren't going to be able to embrace them for a period of time. However, we have moved our platform requirement baseline from ASP.NET 3.5 to ASP.NET 4 with .NET Nuke 7. And so that means that web developers can take advantage of some of the new capabilities that are part of ASP.NET 4. We can take advantage of these capabilities ourselves in building the platform. And there's a lot of productivity and performance improvements that were also introduced as part of the ASP.NET 4 release from Microsoft, and so all of our customers can take advantage of those things. And at this point, I'm going to shift over to doing a product demonstration. All right, so let me warm up a few of these sites that I have here. All right, so the first thing I want to demonstrate is around the .NET Nuke installation, which I mentioned earlier. So the idea around the .NET Nuke installer is we wanted to simplify things dramatically. In the past, we had a web install wizard, which had a number of steps to it, a number of different configuration options which were exposed as part of it. However, sometimes the number of steps could be a little bit daunting for new users, and so we wanted to simplify that quite dramatically. And so what we see here is the new .NET Nuke installation wizard. Essentially, it's one page, and you can get away with entering as little information as just a password. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a password here for the host account. And once I've done that, that is the only thing I really need to enter. I can choose my website for my website name. I have the ability to choose from a variety of templates. I'll just choose the default template, and I'm going to choose my default language as United States, English. I also have the ability to customize the database options. In my case, I've already got the database set up the way that I want it to, so I don't even have to do anything there. And the moment I hit continue, it will then move on to the next step. We have a much more attractive installation process now in terms of giving the user feedback about what's actually happening. It tells the user the various steps that are being performed. It gives them visual feedback about where the process, like how far along the process is in terms of doing the installation, what's being installed. So a much more simplified installation process, and there is some information that allows customers to find out about new capabilities of the platform as well. You still have access to an installation video if you want to watch that and learn a little bit more about the process that's involved in installing the site. But overall, this overall process is much more streamlined and simple than it's ever been in the past. All right, so let's cut over now to a site that's been created on .NET Nuke 7. This is the release candidate, which I'm running here. This is the .NET Nuke Professional Edition. And this is a default installation using the default template. As you can see, we have a brand new skin that's part of the default template. Very visually appealing, very modern looking skin. It's got a number of different pages in the site. Similar to earlier versions of the product had, well, at least in .NET Nuke 6, we obviously included a template that had a certain number of pages in it so that you could really get the impression that you could use this product to build very stunning websites. And so we have a variety of information that's exposed through this default template. We also have some default content, which is, again, focused on a fictitious company which was introduced in .NET Nuke 6, Awesome Cycles. Essentially in .NET Nuke 7, Awesome Cycles has grown up and become a huge manufacturing company, a global distributor of bicycles around the world, and they need to use their website to be their primary mechanism for interacting with their various customers And so the types of information that we expose through the default site is all catered towards the fictitious Awesome Cycles company. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log into the site. I'm going to log in using the host account, which gives me full access to all of the capabilities of the software. One thing you'll notice is we've changed the default styling. So some of the default CSS changes that we've made, you'll see echoed throughout the site. So for example, in .NET Nuke 6, we did have pop-up capabilities in modals, but the styling of these modals has changed in .NET Nuke 7 to be a bit more modern. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Once I'm logged into the site, we see that the visual aspects of the site have changed somewhat. So we now have a control panel that's displayed at the top of our screen. I can scroll down, and again, that control panel still stays resident at the top of the screen, much like it was in .NET Nuke 6, which was a major improvement in the platform that we made at that time. The various information is now organized differently in the control panel. So you still have your admin and host options, but they're organized in a different manner. What we've done is we pulled the most common administrative aspects and made them part of a common settings tab. So these are the things that we feel that administrators of a website will use most commonly, so we want to make them immediately available and not put every option that's available in front of users, because that can be very confusing and also not a very productive experience. The additional advanced settings are still there as well if I switch to the advanced tab, so we still have all the additional capabilities that are part of the platform available in the advanced settings. And we also have now the ability to create bookmarks as well. So you can create a very personalized menu which matches basically the types of administrative activities that you perform on the site. So if we go back into some of these, perhaps the event viewer is something that I visit often. I can add that, and that gets added immediately to my bookmarks. If I go back, it's still in the original common settings, but it's also available in my bookmarks. So through this mechanism, again, you can create a very personalized experience for yourself. And we plan to go much deeper in personalization in the future in .NET Nuke, but this is a great first step. So all of the options that you would expect are available in the admin menu. The host menu has all of the additional options that are available as well, both in terms of the common settings that you would perform in the host area as well as the advanced. And again, you have bookmarks as well. Tools area still has some of the same options that we had before. We've got some integrated help as well. And so another area that I mentioned earlier, which I would like to touch on now, is if we go to a specific page in the site, we'll notice that in the past, .NET Nuke would by default be in edit mode. Well, that is not the case anymore, and as I navigate around the different pages in my site, we'll see a super fast experience. The pages are echoed back very quickly, and that is because I'm in view mode. In view mode, I get to take advantage of all the capabilities in the platform around caching of content so that I get a very responsive experience. When I actually navigate to a page where I would like to modify the content, that is when I can invoke edit mode. Edit mode is now available through the edit page capability in the control panel, so I can service that by hovering over edit page. When I do that, we'll see that the page changes and it actually goes into edit mode and gives me all of the capabilities that I can use for managing content. So we see the action menus appear. We also see some dotted lines around the different areas of the page. And so you can then interact with that page and make some content modifications to it. And we've also got some additional options here if you want to stay in edit mode across the entire site for your entire session, which is sort of the default behavior as it existed in the past. You can still do that by checking the stay in edit mode, but you have to recognize that if you do that, you're not going to get as responsive of a user experience as you would get in view mode. You can also see the page in layout mode as well, so if you choose layout mode, it shows you where all of the different panes are that are part of this particular page, and it's easy to switch in and out of that mode as well. Through the edit page option, you've also got access to some of the other page capabilities, so the ability to modify your page settings, your permissions, and export and delete pages as well. So we've made it very easy to get for administrators to get access to the features and the functionality that they need to use on a day-by-day basis. So if I go back to a page I want to now focus in on some of the new capability that we've added around adding modules. For those of you who are familiar with .NET Nuke 6 or even earlier versions of .NET Nuke, the way it worked in the past is you would drop down a module menu and you would choose to add a new module by choosing it from a drop-down list of options and then adding that to the page. Well, that's been changed significantly in .NET Nuke 7 for the better. So if we choose Add New Module, what happens now is that a pane expands, and it actually will show us a list of all of the different modules that are available as part of this site, which can be added to this page. And it's horizontally scrollable, and we can see icons and branding related to all of these modules. And these modules can then be added to a page. And there's a couple different ways that can occur. So, for example, if I choose the HTML Pro module, I can choose to add it by hovering over an action menu, which then exposes a list of all of the different panes that are part of this skin, and I can choose to add it that way, or we can actually drag and drop. So this is a cool new capability. So if I hover over it, select it, I can then drag the module down, and as I hover over different areas of the page, I can see that there's regions that are exposed, and so if I drop it into the region, it actually added an instance of the HTML text module directly to that page region. I can continue to drag and drop around the page as well, so I can pick up this module and I can drag it down lower into my page and drag it to another spot on the page. So again, drag and drop makes things a lot simpler and more intuitive for users. The new control panel, which exposes all of the different modules, makes it a lot more intuitive to understand what these different modules can do. Also, you can still also take advantage of all of the features we've added in the past around categories as well. So I have different categories that I've created here. So if I just choose common, I can pare down my list, and obviously the categories are configurable by the administrator. So you can create as many different categories as you want and organize your modules according to your own needs, so that that list that is shown by default of all categories is pared down to only those modules which are important to you. And so the drag and drop capability from the control panel make it easier for all users. So I'm going to close the control panel for a moment and focus on another area which I touched on earlier, but that is around the module action menu. So the module action menu is displayed here related to this particular piece of content here. So this module, which is an HTML Pro module. In .NET Nuke 6, we made a fairly major change to module actions. In the past, module actions were embedded into your page and sometimes had the unpleasant side effect of actually modifying some of the content of the page and actually affecting the layout of the page. In .NET Nuke 6, we introduced module actions in a different manner as basically another layer over top of your page so that it could never interfere with the content. But we did, when we added what we called the Manage button, it was intuitive, but it did have some quirks to it in terms of making it easy to administer and get access to the various functions that you want. So what we've done now is we've gone back to using some very simple icons, but also then married that with the capabilities that were added in .NET Nuke 6 in terms of making them a different layer so they kind of affect your layout. And we've broken the module action menu into 3 different aspects. So one aspect is focused on the layout, so where a particular module is located on your page, and so you can use that to move it to various panes and to organize that content within a specific pane as well. We've also got a settings area, so we have all of the different settings options that are specific to this module instance that are available. So we've got our settings, import, export, help, delete, refresh, all available through the settings options. And then for those options that are specific to this particular module, and we have an edit menu as well. So this is where I would be able to edit my content. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this content now. And so what this will do is bring up an instance of the HTML Pro module. HTML Pro module has been overhauled significantly. We're still obviously utilizing our rich text editor to to make it simple for non-technical users to manage content, and for those who want more bare metal kind of approach, you can still get in and tweak the HTML as well. The new area that I want to focus in on is around version tracking. So if we go to the version tracking, you see that there's a number of different versions of content that have been published for this module in the past. I'm going to compare the last two versions to see what changed. So I can compare any two versions that I want, but for my sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to choose the last two. I choose compare, and it loads side-by-side version comparison of the content. So we can see on the left-hand side here version 2 and the right-hand side version 3, which is the current version. If I scroll down, I can see that there was a change made in the content. The word love was changed to texting emoticon. So we've got some deleted text here. We've got some inserted text. So there's some color coding which explains to you in a very visual manner what the content changes were. Interesting thing is this does not only work for textual content, but it also works for HTML tags as well. So if we switch over to the HTML view, it'll be able to tell me at a very granular level what changed. So for example, if you had an image as part of your content which had an alt tag in it, and you changed the text that was part of that alt tag, that wouldn't be immediately visible through this type of a view because that alt tag is part of the HTML image. However, if we go to HTML view, it would actually show you specifically what was changed. And so this is super powerful in terms of being able to control content and really have very fine-grained control over the content changes which happen on your site. And so as I mentioned, this version comparison capability is part of the .NET Nuke Professional Edition HTML Pro module. The thing I would like to mention is some of the other changes that were done. So you saw that blue box that just popped up here. So as I'm typing information into the box here, we'll see that this saving changes to a temporary location pops up. This goes back to what I was explaining earlier around autosave. So by default, the site is set up so that every 10 seconds, as you're sitting on a HTML Pro module, it will auto-save content. So that saves it into a temporary location, which if something happens then to your browser or information, you can then get that content back. And so that's some of the new capabilities that have been added around the HTML Pro module. So I've also set up a mobile site. The mobile site is using the default template that we provide in the box. If I open that up in an emulator, we can see that this is the way it looks on an iPhone type of a device. So switching back to my site, I have a community page that's part of my mobile site. And I might want to take advantage of some of the content that's on my desktop site. So what I can do is I can say add existing module. When I do that, I have to choose which site it's from. I've already set up the site group, which includes both my mobile site and my desktop site, which is why I'm going to see that I have a couple different sites here. So I want to choose my desktop site. Then I can choose a page from that site, and I'm going to choose my community page. And I can see I have a couple different modules here, and I'm going to add the Welcome to the Awesome Cycles community, which is an HTML module, to my page. And so we can see that the content from that module on the desktop site is now displayed on my mobile site. I also want to add a journal module onto my mobile site. And so, did that not add? There we go. Let me see if I can just refresh this page and add the module to my page here. So again, I'm going to choose my desktop site. I'm going to choose my community module, and I'm going to choose to add this to my pane. And I can see that it added an instance of the community activity journal module to my site. And so now, when I actually switch over to my emulator, I can see that if I go to my community page, I now have some content on the page, and I also have a journal as well. And so going back to my mobile site here, if I add something, so adding content through my mobile site, I can share that. And if I go back to my desktop site and I go to my community page, I can say that I'm adding content through my desktop site. And so we can see that content can be entered through both sites. The module is only created in one place. There's one instance of it, but it's shared across the different sites. So again, this gets back to some of the productivity improvements that I mentioned earlier in .NET 7, where you have a lot more flexibility in terms of how you can utilize the content on your site. With that, I think I've wrapped up sort of the high-level feature set that I was planning on talking about today, and I should get over to some questions before we run out of time. So I'm going to open the my questions tab now.
Hey, Sean, just so you know, we also have Will Morganwick on the line in case you want to ask him any of those questions.
All right. Will Morganwick, our Director of Product Management, who has been an integral part of this .NET 7 release. Wow, so we have a lot of questions here.
Yes, we do. They've been very busy asking questions.
So let me just pick some random questions here. How much effort will be needed to move a .NET skin, .NET 6 skin to .NET 7? And so that is a good question because there is some substantial changes that have been done to default CSS. The goal is that there shouldn't be a substantial amount of changes that are required to move a skin. The vast majority of skins should move seamlessly to .NET 7, and your content should work as well. However, we want to encourage people to actually test the .NET 7 release, and maybe if I switch actually back for a moment to my slides, I can mention something that's fairly important before we move on, is that the release schedule for .NET 7 included a beta release on October the 5th, which we did get a lot of good feedback around. I'm very happy to announce that we're introducing or releasing a release candidate that will be available today. The release candidate should be available from Codeplex later today. And our final public release date, so our RTM date for .NET 7 is set for November 28th, so 2 weeks from now. So I can't emphasize this more to the people who are participating in this webinar, but this is your opportunity to download the RC, test out your .NET skins, test out your .NET 6 modules with .NET 7, and if there are issues that you find, please report them as soon as possible because we're sort of in the very final stages of locking down this release. And so this is your sort of final opportunity to weigh in on the .NET 7 product in its current form and influence it in terms of how it actually is finally released. So I need to encourage people to download and try it out. So other questions? Has the connectivity with Oracle databases improved with .NET 7? In fact, it has not. Our primary database platform that we work with is SQL Server. The new data access layer has only really been tested with SQL Server. Under the covers, it is using a micro-ORM which is capable of working with other databases. But that is not something that has been tested as far as the .NET 7.0 release. Do any of the SharePoint connectivity include Office 365, I guess, connectivity? At this point, we have not tested against Office 365. That might be something we're looking at in future versions because we do understand that a lot more companies are starting to use Office 365. Which version of Teller controls are bundled with .NET 7? We are bundling the latest version of the RAD controls for ASP.NET Ajax as part of our partnership agreement with Telerik. and so that is obviously part of all editions, but you have the extra capabilities to utilize those controls in their native manner in the .NET Nuke Professional Edition. Mobile. Can you set the criteria for when a site visitor is redirected to the mobile site? Absolutely. This was a feature that was introduced in .NET Nuke 6.1. So we have a very robust set of redirection rules that you can provide to the system in terms of how to redirect the traffic. You can redirect to a specific portal, a specific landing page, or a completely different mobile site. And we have an integrated mobile device repository, which is automatically updated as part of just normally running your website. This is all part of the .NET Nuke Professional Edition. Has the Ultra Video module by BizModules been tested with DNN 7? We do rely on third-party vendors who are building, products that are built on our platform to test their products. I do not know specifically if that module has been tested, but we have been encouraging module vendors to ensure that their modules are ready for .NET Nuke 7 when it releases. Will the Community Edition release also be on November the 28th? Absolutely. So we will have Community Edition, Professional Edition, and Enterprise Edition releases all on November the 28th. Have all of the DNN core modules been implemented in 7.0? So that's something I didn't touch on. So there is a set of what we'd call, I guess, core modules that have been packaged with the .NET Nuke 7 Professional Edition. They are also easily accessible through the Forge or through Codeplex. So there is a set of modules, though, that have been already tested with .NET Nuke 7. How much is the Professional Edition? So that information is available on our website. It's available on a subscription license basis, and it's $29.99 per year for Professional Edition and $49.99 for Enterprise Edition. Will .NET Nuke 7 support responsive skins? I personally have tested some of the responsive skin designs that are available through the store as commercial skins, and they do work with .NET Nuke 7. So yes, you can use responsive skins with .NET Nuke 7, and in fact I would hope that responsive skins will be easier to create with .NET Nuke 7 because of some of the default CSS changes we've made. Do all core DNN modules have XHTML-based code? So it depends, I guess, on what the definition of core DNN modules are. Certainly some of them do have XHTML-based code. So it would really depend, I guess, on which specific modules are being referred to. Is the capability of working with tokens still available in DNN 7? Yes, the token replace capability is still part of the HTML module, still fully supported, so that will work in .NET Nuke 7. What about .NET Framework 4.5 support? Absolutely, .NET Nuke works on .NET Framework 4.5. We've moved our baseline requirement to ASP.NET 4 just because not all customers can move immediately to ASP.NET 4.5, but you absolutely can use .NET Nuke with ASP.NET 4.5. Has there been any improvements in the HTML editor? Can I copy content from Outlook emails? So some of this is part of the, I guess, rich text editor that we utilize, which is the Telerik RAD editor. There have been some improvements made around the HTML editor in .NET Nuke. But I mean, without knowing specifically, I guess, which sort of issues you might have been running into in terms of cutting and pasting from Microsoft Outlook, that's a difficult question to answer. You should try it yourself in .NET Nuke 7. Is it safe to assume that Dell and Dell, yes?
We're getting a little bit over on time, so why don't we take like a couple more questions, and just because there's no way you're going to be able to get to all the questions here,
yeah,
and then we'll try to get in touch with people afterwards for those specific questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the questions. This is great feedback. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in .NET Nuke 7. This is, I think, the largest webinar we've ever done as a company. So, a lot of pent-up demand for .NET Nuke 7. Great question here. How difficult is it to upgrade a 6.2 version to .NET Nuke 7? This is a fully tested upgrade path that we've worked on internally to ensure that people can upgrade from .NET Nuke 6.2 to 7. In fact, I mean, you can upgrade from pretty much any previous version of the .NET Nuke platform. We've always focused on upgradability, and so that's been a key part of our platform right from the very beginning. And so upgrades are tested and fully supported from previous versions. Does .NET Nuke support SQL Server 2008 and 2005? We actually moved our baseline requirement to SQL Server 2008 with .NET Nuke 7. We felt that it was time to make that transition, and I guess the process of moving a site from SQL Server 2005 to 2008 is not that significant.
So that's all we have time for today. I just want to thank everybody as well for attending. This has been, I would say, the largest webinar that is on record here at .NET Nuke. So I want to thank all of you guys for registering and attending. There will be an email that goes out to you tomorrow with a replay available of this webinar. It will include the slides. And we will be reaching out to those of you that asked questions that we did not get to and try and answer those offline. So thank you again, and thank you, Sean, for a great presentation.
All right. Thank you, everyone.